For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to StratNewsGlobal. I am Surya Gangadharan. Our focus of discussion this evening is Bangladesh, notably the comments by the Foreign Minister, Mr. A.K. Abdul Momen, about at a public event in Chattogram a few days ago. The comments he said are interesting. They've embarrassed India, and we're not quite sure if they've embarrassed Bangladesh as yet, but that's possibly something we'll get to know a little later. So what did Mr. Momen say? He said, I went to India and said Sheikh Hasina must be kept in power. I told the Indian side, Sheikh Hasina must be sustained. Bangladesh will continue to march towards development and will truly become a country free of communalism under her leadership. Some of the other points he made was that under Sheikh Hasina, relations with India had improved. Instability in Bangladesh was a danger for India too. And the two countries should work in a manner that does not instigate communal forces. So the controversy was whether that India should support Sheikh Hasina. It's a strange statement for a foreign minister of a sovereign country to make. And I'd like to bring in Ayesha Kabir at this point, the editor of Prathom Alo, a leading Bangladesh paper based in Dhaka. Ayesha, welcome. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here too. Thank you.
Ayesha, how are these comments being seen in Bangladesh? Are they being commented upon, criticized, ridiculed, or just complete silence?
It's created a huge stir in Bangladesh, as you can imagine. You are mentioning that it's embarrassing for India, so you can imagine just how much more embarrassing it is for Bangladesh when our own minister said something like that. And it's not just a matter of India supporting Sheikh Hasina and the government. He actually said that, asked them to do anything that they can to keep Sheikh Hasina and her government in power. So that is an extremely embarrassing, humiliating, insulting. I mean, there's no words to describe how the people felt, even people within the government and within the ruling party. Because we are a democratic country, a sovereign country, very proud of our independence, as you can imagine. And yes, India is a friend of ours from the very beginning of our independence. But we are independent, we are sovereign. So who stays in power or who doesn't stay in power depends on the people. This is the People's Republic of Bangladesh, and the people will decide whether they want Sheikh Hasina and her government in power or not. So, I mean, the fact that the foreign minister requested the Indian government, or said that he requested the Indian government to make sure that this government stays in power, is it hits our democracy, it hits our dignity, our respect, and it's demeaning in all senses of the word.
Has the minister clarified his remarks? Was something lost in translation?
He tried to clarify them, but in doing so, he simply repeated what he said. And he said that, that he gave reasons why Hasina should stay in power, which is fine. He has his logic. It's his party. But why he couldn't really clarify why that he would request India to make sure to do anything in their power for this government to stay in power. So this has been met with a volley of protest from the people and within the government too, among the ministers, among the Awami League leaders too.
So what is the government saying? Have they said anything in public, or is this something you only hear about? Rumors?
Well, officially, like the Prime Minister on an official level, no statement has been issued yet, but the different leaders have said things. Some leaders, the Information Minister and some other ministers have been saying that, he spoke on her personal, on a personal level. It's not the reflection of the government's statement, or not a reflection of the party statement. He's not even a member of the party's central committee. But the fact remains he is a minister and he was on an official visit. So you can't just wipe it out by saying that it's not an official statement. It was an official statement. It wasn't a personal visit. It was an official visit. So many ministers are trying to, say that, okay, he shouldn't have said it. And, trying to distance themselves from him. But there's no official statement as yet about this.
And her visit is due in a matter of weeks. So is there some signal? The buzz here is that perhaps there's a signal from Dhaka. Is it something of that kind?
Well, to tell the truth, this particular minister, our foreign minister, A.K. Abdul Momen, this is not the first time he's made remarks which have caused the stir. I mean, he's pretty well known for that. He can be he's supposed to be a diplomat, but he's an extremely undiplomatic diplomat. For example, there's been some very sad incidents recently of what we call enforced disappearances, which naturally the government doesn't agree with that. Fine, the government has their narrative, that people have their narrative, but at a time when these things are being brought up, very sensitive issues, he says, oh, these people have, this isn't enforced disappearances. These people have just drowned in the Mediterranean while they were trying to go to Italy or something. So, he makes remarks like that. So when he made this remark, it was shocking and not shocking at the same time, not surprising at the same time.
But he enjoys...
Yes, about Sheikh Hasina's coming visit, it's definitely an embarrassment for this statement to made at this time. And not only her coming visit, but also with the elections. And India has always been sort of a card played during the elections, pro-India, anti-India. That's always there. So, I mean, this would be a huge card given into the opponents of Awami League's hand.
I mean, is he somebody who is seen as close to Sheikh Hasina?
Well, their families are very close. They go way back, a long time. So people are thinking he might be admonished. He might be told to be careful, but he's not probably won't lose his seat in the cabinet, because that would also, sort of admit that he's, made a mistake and bring it more to open. Now, if I could make a comment on my own, that the fact that he asked India not to intervene will naturally bring the question of that, oh, so does our elections, do our governments depend on India or not? And this is what the opposition always likes to say. So he's played into their hands.
Yeah. So are we hearing any voices from the BNP?
Surprisingly, it's more naturally they are saying it, but surprisingly, it's more the government themselves who are being very vocal. I mean, the government ministers and the leaders, because it's very embarrassing for them. And I mean, it would be naive to say, okay, nobody's got anything to say in any elections. Yeah, we like to say that nobody can interfere and everything. That would be naive, as you're a media person, I'm a media person. So we do know there are many things that do go on behind the scenes. I'm not saying India dictates our elections or anything, but things do happen behind the scenes. But all those always remain behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But he's sort of, bringing it out into the open.
Now we are a few weeks away from Sheikh Hasina's visit. A lot of buzz about deals that could be struck, perhaps even on water sharing. What are you getting?
Well, she's hoping that, especially since there are still many unresolved issues, water sharing, the border killings, and many other unresolved issues. So she's hoping at least to get some of these deals signed. But about the water sharing issue, we still don't see much hope in the future. We still don't see any positive signs of it actually going through. No.
Is that a major issue in Bangladesh?
It is a major issue right now because people are feeling the crunch of that. And with India is always a sensitive issue. I mean, we love India and we hate. There's a love-hate relationship with India. We can't live without it. We can't live with it, sort of thing. So, and politically speaking, that's always a hot issue. So there's the water issue. There's the issue of border killings and many other issues which need to be settled. So hopefully her visit will patch up things. There's a communal issue of communal on both sides, anti-communal feelings on both sides. And the fact that the foreign minister made this statement at a Janamashtami, the Sri Krishna's birthday event, well, people haven't pointed that out, but personally, I felt that was even more undiplomatic because he could say that anywhere, but by saying it at an event of the Hindu religion, and as it is, there's sometimes bad feelings that, okay, have they got loyalty towards India and all, and saying that I think that was also very insensitive of him, very undiplomatic of him. So far, that issue hasn't been magnified, but it could be.
I mean, would you expect some of the Islamic groups to kind of beat the drum on this?
I would have expected it. So far, they haven't made an issue out of that.
Is that unusual?
But
are you surprised?
It's only just started.
Does that surprise you?
It does surprise me. It does surprise me because even while the opposition BNP, everybody has brought it up, but surprisingly, it's the government people who are more vocal about it. But I think it's just been done. I think it's going to explode into until something else comes into the fore.
So in the run-up to the parliamentary elections, I think they do in December, January sometime. What's your reading of the tea leaves? You think Sheikh Hasina's party is going to go right through?
Sheikh Hasina's party, her problem is not just the normal problem of incumbency, but they've already been 3 years. So you can imagine in our sort of country, 3 years is a long time, 3 terms. 3 terms is a long time. So there's a lot of disheartenment with corruption, crime, and whatever normally happens. So if there's a free and fair election, even whether the opposition is popular or not, there's an anti-incumbency possibility. But the thing is, will there be a free and fair election? Will there be an election which the opposition won't boycott? Because the opposition doesn't want to have an election under a political government. They want it under a caretaker government. But this government is refusing. So we'll have to see whether the opposition actually takes part in the election, whether the election takes place or not. So there's a lot of speculations going on about that.
I mean, the previous election was seen as credible, free and fair, or?
No, they're not the past 2 elections, no. The past 2 elections haven't been seen as free and fair. The votes were cast on the night before the election. A lot of people weren't allowed to go, or when they went to cast their vote, they found their votes had already been cast. So there has been a lot of controversy. And now the latest controversy which is coming up is they're planning to use the EVM, the electronic voting machines, in the coming election. So one thing is the people aren't comfortable with that. And this particular EVM which they're using doesn't have a paper trail. So people are a bit skeptical about that too. That's an issue too.
But not enough to rock Sheikh Hasina's hold over government or the country?
Not really, but at the same time, people are insisting they want a free and fair election under a caretaker government. And yes, and the problem is the government has done a lot of good things, a lot of development, a lot of all sorts of things, but the economy is being hit hard right now by, I guess, maybe also the global situation and all. But her main problem, not Sheikh Hasina herself, but her party's main problem is that you can imagine 3 terms. It's from the grassroots to the mid-level leaders. There's been a lot of corruption, a lot of arrogance, a lot of people are being suppressed. So there's a lot of animosity against the ruling party. So that is also over there. And we in the media, we've also faced the brunt of it.
Yeah,
Things like the Digital Security Act and other things. So there's that over there.
Is China a factor in the elections?
Well, yes and no. Traditionally, China has never directly interfered, but things have changed, as you know, in the last few years. And China definitely has now a more prominent presence in Bangladesh, what with its pouring in a lot of investment and everything. But it doesn't directly interfere, but behind the scenes, who knows? Maybe Momen can tell us.
But is it easier to play the India card in that sense? Is it has more appeal?
In that sense, it does. But at the same time, I have to say, Sheikh Hasina has been an astute politician in the sense that she's a big favorite with China too, because she delivers the goods. And China has one plus point is that they don't care about democracy. They don't care about human rights. So they don't have any conditionalities. So that's there too. But traditionally speaking, India has always been the friend. China was, in fact, quite the foe because of 1971. It was pro-Pakistan and against Bangladesh. But things have changed now. It's all about the money.
But India is also fairly non-interfering in terms of. I mean, I recall when there was some communal riots some time back, there was no comment from Delhi. There may have been some noises here.
Officially, definitely. But at the same time, behind the scenes, I wouldn't say it's completely non-interfering. I wouldn't say that. And yeah, we would be naive to say that, no, India doesn't interfere at all. Definitely, it has its own interests, which is only natural. It will want its interests to be upheld in Bangladesh. Who wouldn't? We would want our interests upheld in India too. So behind the scenes, yes, definitely, it would want a government here that is friendly, that will deliver the goods, that will uphold its interests.
So what do you really expect from this? So what do you expect from this visit of Sheikh Hasina? What are the big takeaways here?
What I would see is that we've been seeing from what we see, Hasina has been playing a sort of balancing act between China and India. And we feel sometimes that India hasn't been too pleased with her leaning towards China. So maybe this will sort of mend fences, do some damage control. We feel that might happen. That will be an issue, yes.
Do you see India playing a role in kind of nudging Sheikh Hasina towards more transparency, giving more space for the opposition? Do you see India doing that?
Frankly, not really. Not really, because in the sense why I'm saying not really, not that it's anti-democracy or something. There's no love lost between India and the opposition, to tell the truth. So why would it be wanting to do anything, good for the opposition or something that would, strengthen the opposition? I mean, I'm just putting it very bluntly. I'm not a diplomat.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Because there have been some noises coming out of, I think, Khalid Zia's son in London, some very friendly noises and stuff like that. So one was wondering, because from what we hear and understand, there is practically no outreach to the BNP, which is not healthy.
Not at all healthy for democracy, because a healthy opposition naturally is absolutely good for democracy. And BNP has been quiet all these years. Only recently, last few months, it's been now more vocal, making a noise, holding processions, rallies, and also with the election coming up. So, I mean, whether it wins the election or not, to me, that's not as important as having a strong opposition, keeping the government accountable. Having a parliament is so important, which
Yeah.
what we have now is hardly a parliament because it's all like one-sided. So, I mean, even if BNP doesn't win the election, if it can have some presence, some vocal presence in parliament, that would make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. So, last question. If India were to make a public outreach to the BNP, how would it be seen within Sheikh Hasina's government? Would she like it? She won't like it?
She wouldn't like it at all. She's quite possessive about her friends. She wouldn't like it at all. And yes, because just as from Momen's remarks, you can see India is a factor, whether we like it or not, or whether we admit it or not, rather. And yes, BNP itself, at different times when it was in power, when it was out of power, had reached out to India at different times. And the chemistry might not be as good as Awami League in India, but BNP naturally would also, anyone who's in Bangladesh, who's in the government, would want good relations with India. And if India did reach out towards BNP, no, I don't think Sheikh Hasina or her government would appreciate it at all.
Mm-hmm. That kind of puts a bit of a handicap for us, isn't it? When you look at not being able to deal with anybody except, and there's no
Well,
clue about this about a succession, isn't it?
that seems to be a handicap to you, but at the same time, from the Bangladesh perspective, we see sometimes that India doesn't want to deal with anyone else other than Awami League. That's how it's viewed from this side of the border.
I see. What about the succession? Is there any clarity there?
There's not much clarity about succession. There's always, that's the big question mark in both the parties, a lot of speculations, a lot of, but dynastic politics is here to stay for some time.
Yeah, it's a given.
That's just a part of life. That's the reality.
Yeah. Ayesha Kabir, great talking to you again. And let's hope things clarify further down the road. Thank you for that insight and perspective. Great to have you.
Thank you. Good night.
And for those of you who joined us on this conversation, thank you for joining in. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Thank you and good night.